This is an Eye on Annapolis bonus podcast.
Well, it is September, and rumor has it, and it's not a rumor, it's because I got hounded on it, but it is National Recovery Month, and we're here outside of Starbucks on a beautiful September day, talking to the only person that could really talk about National Recovery Month, and that's Angel Traynor, who's the founder of Serenity Sisters, and perhaps the biggest advocate for recovery in Anne Arundel County. And I do recommend everybody checks out serenitysistas.org, and that's SISTAS. Angel, thank you for kicking me in the butt and reminding me that it is National Recovery Month. We do want to talk about it because there's a lot of stuff going on, obviously nationally, but also right here in Anne Arundel County.
There is. Thank you, John. I advocate the way that I advocate because I myself recover out loud. I'm coming up on 17 years, and I think that it's important that people know that we can change, that things change for people if they want them to change. So I advocate for recovery across the county, the state, and now, it's National Recovery Month. Who doesn't love a good month-long party?
Well, my question is we all know about the problem with drugs and alcohol in this country, and we know about the number of people that are in recovery, and we probably don't know all of the number of people that are in or perhaps should be in recovery. Why is it just a month? Why isn't it National Recovery every month?
I don't disagree with that. I do not disagree with that at all. Well, because I think we would be greedy if we tried to take the whole year. However, we do recover every single day of the year.
Well, I think that it's so wonderful to celebrate the recovery, okay? I have never been in recovery. I don't believe I've been very careful. My father was an alcoholic, so I've been very careful in my life to not fall in that. And he told me from a young age to be very careful about that. I've never walked in your shoes, but I certainly know the problem that exists. And it's got to be so refreshing to those that are in recovery to be able to celebrate it, as you have, you said, for 17 years, as well as to those that may be in it or maybe in denial that are sitting there saying, yes, there is something better than stealing from my grandmother and, and sleeping in the market house.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think for a long time, I just did not believe. I thought it may be possible for you or for somebody else, but not for me because of everything that I've done or everything I've gone through in my life. And I didn't think that I was worthy. Right. So at some point it had to change. And I started believing that perhaps I was worthy enough of living a different life. So I take it as a daily mission to help other individuals do the same and to find their voice. I have a real heart for the families these days because I look at my own mother who just did her very best that she could do. And I still took the road that I took. But I've also worked with a lot of family members over especially the last 12 years. John, if I never had to look at another mother or father, brother or sister and say, I'm sorry for your loss, I would be a happy camper.
It has to be so difficult in dealing with a family member because you want to give them all of the resources that they possibly can have to succeed, to get out of this downward spiral or this spiral, whichever way it goes. But let's get out of this. I've got to think that even those that are active users don't say in their mind, well, this is the best way to do things. I think they realize that it's not a good thing, but it's a thing that's helping me cope with whatever mental illness or whatever it is that I've got going on. Mm-hmm. And I know that it was way back when Westmore was Westmore. Wrong. There's a Freudian slip, but when Wes Adams was the state's attorney. And we were talking about that and, with his drug court program and everything else that he had in there. And he said, I had back surgery. And the last thing they told me, they said, here's all the drugs, take these, but be careful. They might make you constipated. Mm-hmm. And he was like, nothing about that. If you keep taking these and taking these and taking these, you may become addicted. I know when I had my own knee worked on, they gave me the morphine pills, and they said, get ahead of the pain because it's going to be bad. I just didn't like the feeling of taking it. Based on my background, I said, I don't know if I'm an addictive, and I don't know if that's the right word, but an addictive type of a person, but I didn't want to risk that. So extra strength Tylenol worked for me and was a little bit painful, but we got through it. The folks that are dealing with this has just got to tear a family apart because you want to give them the resources. You want to make sure that they live their best lives.
What I have found is that addiction is definitely a family disease, and it will break down and break apart families because one person, right? It just takes one person to be in active addiction. And I say we because I've been that person, will just rip right through a family. But I also am of the firm belief that families recover together. And again, I say that from my own experience with my own mother, with my own children, my grandmother who was an alcoholic, and I watched my grandmother recover, and it didn't even faze me. I mean, I went to meetings with her as a small child. None of that stuck. None of it pertained to me when my own addiction took off.
Sure, it was grandma's problem.
Yeah, it was her, right? And my grandmother just passed away this year. She was 101.8 years old.
Oh, God bless her.
55 years of sobriety. She watched me go through the worst of the worst, but she also got to see me go through the best part of my life as well. So it's a family problem. It's a family disease, and it's a family recovery. So that's why I have such a heart for the families, because I want to see people live their best life.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So what is happening for National Recovery Month? The national website is SAMHSA, SAMSHA.
That's a tough one to get out.
Is that
you said it right? Yeah.
And then /recovery-month, or you can just Google in National Recovery Month, and it'll take you there. But I mean, this is a national effort that is, not only here in Annapolis or Anne Arundel County or Maryland, or it's all across the United States.
It is. The theme this year is Together We Can. That's just so true of recovery. I mean, it takes a village, right? And it has to be a together thing. So on the national front, I will tell you that Mobilized Recovery is a national movement. It's a bus tour. They start on the West Coast, move to the East Coast, and they're stopping in Maryland this year. It's just after the end of Recovery Month, but they have a lot of work to do. The bus tour is October the 10th, and you can get all of that information on the recoveryannearundel.org website. And that October the 10th, it will happen at the Church on Severn Run up off of Telegraph Road. But more locally, on September the 15th here in Annapolis, we will have the 12th annual Recovery Walk. It's one of my favorite events to do. This year we have Brandon Novak as our special guest speaker. The walk kicks off at 12 o'clock. We do a short 1.2 mile walk through downtown Annapolis. This year we've got food trucks from Chevy's and Ritos, and all of we love parties.
And I will say I've done that a couple of years. And the one thing, if anybody that's listening is sitting into their fancy home going, oh, well, this doesn't affect me, go out to this walk and see how many people are there. And I'll even challenge you to see how many people that are there.
Well, it's not just a family disease. It's a community disease. So most people looking at me today would be like, you did not live that colorful life, Angel. And I'll say, yes, I did live a very colorful life, which included a record. And, those acts that I was committing in the community, and it affected my whole community, which is one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this town in particular. I'm an Annapolitan. I've been here my whole life.
I remember the very first time we met, you said that way back when you were on a first-name basis with all of the cops, and now you're on a first-name basis with them all still, but on a whole different level.
A whole different level. I co-chair the police foundation with a good friend of mine, and I look at the life that I live today, and I'm like, well, how did that happen? And there are
probably some cops there going, how did that happen?
There absolutely are. And, Kevin, one of my favorite over there, Kevin, he put me in the back of a paddy wagon, and today we stand shoulder to shoulder in the community, doing good in the community. So for me, it's an honor.
Yeah, no, it truly is. I see a picture about a golf tournament.
We do. We have a golf tournament coming up, It is Thursday, September the 19th. And again, you can get this information at recoveryannearundel.org. This is the 12th annual Larry Spitzer Sharing and Caring Golf Tournament, Compass Point Golf Course, 7:15 registration. Golfers are very serious about what they do. I have learned in the 12 years. I'm not a golfer. I don't want to hold a golf club, but I sure do love riding around on the golf course in the buggies.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, I love it.
How many people, do you have any idea of how many people are in recovery in Anne Arundel County?
No.
I mean, you see a very small slice of it, I think, in your work.
I do. I know that nationally, they say 23 million of us are in recovery. But I can tell you that there was a convention a world convention over this past weekend, and there were 5,000 people from around the world that were there celebrating recovery. I'm going to a convention next week. It's about 5,000 people that are there celebrating their recovery. We're everywhere. Sometimes we talk about it, sometimes we don't.
Did you say 23 million in the United States?
Yes, nationally.
That's 10% of the adult population. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yes. And with the work that I do daily, what I've seen over the last 12 years is that the population that's coming in, they're getting younger and younger, which is great news because I myself was in active addiction for 33 years. And if they don't, I've done that for them. They don't have to do that. Just come on into recovery when you're young. Mm-hmm. That's what I tell them all the time. So,
and the governments, I will have to say that the governments have done a good job of stepping up with the supports and the resources. I mean, I will go back to former county executive Steve Shue, who established the safe stations, mm-hmm. Which has been a wonderful success. It's been a model all over. Also, the crisis team, asset team, I forget the fancy name of it.
Mobile Crisis Response,
right?
CRS.
Again, a fantastic resource that we have here that is underused. I think, when you've got people, and I do have some friends that have actually, just had a daughter that was working through depression and don't think there was drug use involved in that. But he said, I'm at wit's end. How do I deal with this teenager? And he called, and Jen Corbin had come out with her team, and it tempered, and they were able to get it resolved, and things have moved on wonderfully since then. Look for the resources if you feel you need them. They're here.
Absolutely. I grew up in the Steve Shue, Wes Adams era, if you will. I started coming in. That's when I really started to get involved with advocacy. And I learned so much during that time frame about the resources that we have or we need in Anne Arundel County. And I can tell you that in the last 10 years, I've traveled to every jurisdiction in Maryland. And, those counties look at us and they're like, how did you do that? How is it that Anne Arundel has the resources that we have? And yes, we have some wonderful resources, but more importantly, it's the way we work together. And I say that because I've, again, very colorful life. And you would think that a state's attorney and a person like me, right? I'm a convicted felon, would ever do any good together. And I used to say to him all the time, we are the most unlikely of pairs, but we're really not, because with my knowledge and his knowledge, we worked really well together. Jen Corbin standing side by side with her and doing the work that she does. We've got great resources, but we have a great relationship.
There are people that do this, and there was a spokesperson for the police department here a long time ago, TJ Smith, who went up to Baltimore and everything else. And he told me a story one time when we were talking about it. It really brought tears to his eyes again. But he said he was working some late shift as a cop and here in Anne Arundel County. He gets this phone call and says, hey, Mr. Smith, Christmas Eve. He says, I just wanted to say thank you. And he's like, well, who are you? And he says, oh, well, my name is such and such. And he's like, I remember you. We used to play cat and mouse, and I know I picked you up a couple times down in Edgewater and, that whole 9 yards. He knew exactly who he was. He says, yeah, that was me. He says, I finally, I got my shit together. I'm engaged. I've got a job. Because you talked to me. You didn't yell at me. You talked to me while I was in handcuffs in the back of your car. And it stuck with me, and I want to say thank you. And he said, that was the best Christmas gift he'd ever gotten. And I just saw where Ron Bateman is doing a book with a guy that he busted in some kind of a big drug bust back when he was an Anne Arundel County cop as well, former Sheriff Ron Bateman. And I know he's written several different books, but this one is the good guy working with the bad guy to do it. And once you get over the hump and you realize that there is a different life out there that is drug-free, that is alcohol-free, that whatever the substance of choice is, that it can work. And people are so forgiving. And you mentioned that Anne Arundel County, the way we work together. I looked during COVID, and I mean, you look at the restaurants that gathered up to keep other restaurants together. You look at the people that shuttle people, the people that were giving out food to,
Oh, yeah.
I've never lived in a community that really is selfless when it comes to helping out other people. Very few people would just, I got mine.
How many of us have the Roxannas and the Monicas? Mm-hmm. Right? How many jurisdictions?
Or the Angels. I'll throw that out,
Thank you. It is the way that we work together, John. I mean, none of this would work if we did not trust each other and work together the way that we do. Did Wes Adams need to trust me? Stephen Thomas, did he need to trust me? No, they had no reason. They had no reason.
Had every reason not to.
Correct. Absolutely every reason not to. But they, and that's why I say I came up in that era, because they saw something in me that I wasn't really sure about for myself, right? And it just worked together. We just worked together well. And I'm so grateful for those experiences, because it enables me to go in and talk to my senator and my delegate and advocate for recovery at that level.
And I would say, take it a step further, it enables you to have them listen to you.
Absolutely.
But we are such a giving county, and you are so right that we do have the Angels, we've got the Monicas, and we've got the Roxannas of the world here.
Absolutely.
National Recovery Month, though, is a huge thing, and I still stand by that. It shouldn't be a month. It should be every day of the year. And I think that recoveryAnneArundel.org, and that's all spelled out, is the place for the resource. You've got a golf outing coming up on September 19th, I think you told me?
September the 19th.
You've got the big old bus tour that's coming in at the beginning of October.
October the 10th.
And get involved with it. Find out about the Recovery Walk. What's the date on that again?
That is September the 15th, so we're coming up quickly on that. It's probably my favorite event besides Hoops for Hope, but that's it. I like that one too.
But take a look at the Recovery Walk. And I do encourage people to go down there. Just that would be a good way to dip your toe into the pool and see how you can help, because there's not a single person in this county that can't help this in some way. And whether that is just talking to a high school kid that is maybe on drugs and saying, hey, if you ever need to talk, come talk to me. And I know that I've spoken with the suicide prevention people, and they said, the best thing you can do is just say, how are you doing?
Yeah,
simple question, 3 words.
Most of the time for me, it's how can I help? How can I help you with your recovery? What can I do to help you? And that's really the theme of the Recovery Walk. How can we help the community? There will be 20 tables there with resources. So if you need a resource, if you want to know what it's all about, come on out and see us.
Fantastic. Angel Traynor, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate the sunshine out here at Starbucks.
It's a beautiful day.
And hopefully fall is on the way here. And I do want to touch base with you a little bit later, and we want to talk about Serenity Sisters, which is a wonderful organization separate from your advocacy, separate in conjunction and parallel with your advocacy for National Recovery Month. But we do want to talk about Serenity Sisters, because that is just a wonderful organization that's changed countless number of lives time and time again.
Thank you, John. And I'm happy to meet anytime.
This has been a bonus podcast from Eye on Annapolis. Please visit us at eyeonannapolis.net. Follow us on Facebook at All Annapolis and on Twitter at Eye on Annapolis. And if you haven't subscribed to the Daily News Brief podcast, go for it. And all of your local news will be delivered to your phone, tablet, or smart device by 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday.